They say you can't fight City Hall, but they never said anything about fighting your HOA president, who thinks she's the queen of the neighborhood. When I decided to sell my home of 20 years and move closer to my son, I never imagined it would lead to police cars in my driveway and a federal investigation. But that's exactly what happened when I crossed paths with the most power-hungry HOA president in Arizona history. If you've ever dealt with an HOA that's gone off the rails, you'll want to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. Share your own HOA horror stories in the comments below. I read every single one, and I guarantee they can't top this. My name's Frank, and I'm a retired history professor. My wife Eleanor and I bought our home in Sunset Pines back in 2002, right after I retired. We picked this community because it promised peaceful desert living with friendly neighbors and reasonable rules. For the first 15 years, it was exactly that, a wonderful place to spend our golden years. Then Eleanor passed in 2017, and things started changing. New people moved in, and with them came new leadership for our HOA. By 2020, Brenda Peterson, whom everyone behind her back called HOA Karen, had become president, and the neighborhood hasn't been the same since. Brenda was a former corporate executive who retired early and apparently decided to make running our HOA her new full-time job. She started implementing stricter rules, hiring a private security company to patrol the neighborhood, and fining residents for everything from leaving their garage doors open too long to having the wrong shade of white window blinds. I mostly kept to myself after Eleanor passed, tending to her rose garden and reading on the porch. I avoided HOA meetings and paid my dues on time, hoping to stay under Brenda's radar. That worked until last winter when my son Mark called with some news. "Dad, I've been promoted to special agent in charge of the Phoenix field office," he told me proudly. "We're buying a house in Scottsdale, and we want you closer to us. What would you think about selling your place and moving to a retirement community near us?" Mark had followed in his uncle's footsteps and joined the FBI right after college. I'd never been prouder, but I'll admit I was hesitant about leaving the home Eleanor and I had shared for so many years. After some thought, I realized he was right. The house was too big for me now, and most of our old friends had either moved away or passed on. It was time for a new chapter. What I didn't know was that Brenda had somehow gotten it into her head that residents needed HOA approval to sell their homes. It wasn't in any of the bylaws. I checked, but that didn't stop her. The trouble started the day I put the for sale sign in my yard. I just finished hammering it in when Brenda's Cadillac screeched to a halt in my driveway. "Frank, what do you think you're doing?" she demanded, storming across my lawn without so much as a hello. "Selling my home, Brenda. What does it look like?" I replied, keeping my voice even. "You can't sell without HOA approval. There's a process, a waiting period, inspections." She sputtered, her face turning red. I chuckled, thinking she was joking. "Brenda, I've been here 20 years. There's no such rule in the bylaws." "That's because it's a new regulation," she declared, hands on her hips. "The board approved it last month. You need to submit an application, pay a $500 processing fee, and wait 60 days for approval." I just stared at her, dumbfounded. "You can't be serious." "I'm putting my house on the market next week. My son's an FBI agent, Brenda. You can't make up rules as you go along." Her eyes narrowed at the mention of Mark's profession. "We'll see about that, Frank. I should have known right then that I was in for a fight, but I honestly thought she was just blowing hot air." I couldn't have been more wrong. 3 days later, I received a certified letter from the HOA. It was a formal notice of violation for unauthorized property sale listing, with a fine of $1,000 and a demand that I remove the for sale sign immediately. If I didn't comply within 7 days, they would place a lien on my property. I called my real estate agent, Lisa, who was equally baffled. Frank, I've been selling homes in this area for 15 years. I've never heard of an HOA requiring approval to sell. That's not legal. She recommended I contact a real estate attorney, which I did. Tom Martinez specialized in property law and had dealt with problematic HOAs before. This is completely outside their authority, Tom told me after reviewing my HOA documents. They have no legal standing to prevent you from selling your home or to fine you for listing it. I'll draft a response letter. You wouldn't believe what happened next. The day after Tom sent his letter, I came home to find a notice taped to my door. My water had been shut off for emergency repairs. When I called the water company, they had no record of any work being done in my area. It didn't take a genius to figure out Brenda had pulled some strings. I was getting frustrated, but I still thought this was just a minor inconvenience. I had no idea Brenda was just getting warmed up. If this HOA sounds unbelievable already, make sure to hit subscribe. You don't want to miss how this ends. The following week, things escalated dramatically. I returned from grocery shopping to find 2 police cars in my driveway. My heart started pounding as I pulled in behind them. "Frank Henderson?" one of the officers asked as I got out of my car. "Yes, officer." "What's going on?" "We received a call about a disturbance at this address," he said, looking around my quiet property. "I've been gone for an hour." "There's no disturbance here," the second officer spoke up. "The caller said there was a moving truck here and that you were attempting to move without proper authorization." I couldn't help it. I laughed out loud. "Proper authorization? From whom? The HOA president?" The officers exchanged glances. The caller identified herself as the neighborhood HOA president. "She said you were violating community rules by moving without permission." I took a deep breath. "Officers, I'm selling my home. I haven't hired a moving truck yet. I'm not violating any laws or even any legitimate HOA rules. Brenda Peterson has been harassing me since I put my house on the market." Just then, Brenda's Cadillac rounded the corner. She parked and marched over, a triumphant look on her face. "Thank you for coming so quickly, officers," she said, ignoring me completely. "As I explained on the phone, Mr. Henderson is attempting to move without following proper HOA procedures." The first officer turned to her. "Ma'am, we've responded to a call about a disturbance. We don't enforce HOA rules. That's a civil matter." Brenda's face fell. "But he's violating the community regulations. He needs to be stopped." The officer sighed. "Ma'am, unless there's evidence of a crime being committed, there's nothing we can do. Please don't call 911 for HOA matters in the future. This ties up emergency resources." After they left, Brenda turned to me, her eyes blazing. "This isn't over, Frank. You can't just flout the rules because you think you're above them." "I'm not above any rules, Brenda. I'm following the law, something you might want to try sometime," I replied, before walking into my house and locking the door. I thought the police incident would be the worst of it. I was wrong. 2 days later, I received another certified letter. This one informed me that the HOA had placed a $15,000 lien on my property for repeated violations of community standards and bylaws. The letter stated that the lien would prevent me from selling my home until it was paid in full. I immediately called Tom, my attorney. He was furious. "This is illegal, Frank. They can't place a lien without following proper legal procedures, and certainly not for these supposed violations. We need to take them to court." Meanwhile, my son Mark had been hearing about all this from our weekly calls. He offered to look into the HOA's practices, mentioning that the FBI sometimes gets involved with organized fraud in homeowners associations. I told him not to worry, that my attorney had it under control. But looking back, I should have known my son wouldn't let this go. The next few weeks were a blur of legal filings and threats from the HOA. They sent me daily violation notices for everything from improper lawn maintenance to unapproved exterior modifications. They even tried to fine me $500 because my mailbox had a small scratch on it. Then came the day that changed everything. I had finally accepted an offer on my house and was preparing to close when I got a call from the title company. "Frank, we've discovered a problem with the title," the agent told me. "There are multiple liens on your property from the HOA totaling nearly $50,000. I nearly dropped the phone. $50,000? That's impossible. How did this happen? It appears the HOA has been placing liens for various violations over the past few weeks. They've also filed a lawsuit against you seeking injunctive relief to prevent the sale." I was speechless. These people were actually trying to steal my home out from under me. That evening, I called Mark and explained what was happening. I could hear the anger in his voice as he listened. "Dad, let me handle this. I'm going to come down this weekend with some colleagues. This has gone beyond civil harassment. What they're doing is criminal. I should have been relieved, but I was worried. Mark, I don't want you to abuse your position because of me. This is my fight." "It's not just about you anymore, Dad. If they're doing this to you, they're probably doing it to other residents. This sounds like organized fraud." The following Saturday, Mark arrived with two of his colleagues from the FBI's white-collar crime unit. They spent hours going through all the documents I'd collected from the HOA, the violation notices, the letters, the fake liens. Mark's expression grew darker as he reviewed everything. "Dad, this is worse than I thought. These aren't just excessive fines. Some of these documents are forged. The county recorder has no record of these liens being filed properly." He explained that they would be opening an investigation into the HOA's practices, particularly focusing on Brenda and the board members who had supported these actions. "We need to gather more evidence," Mark told me. "We'll need to talk to other residents who might have had similar experiences." Over the next few weeks, Mark and his team conducted a quiet investigation. What they uncovered was shocking. Brenda and several board members had been systematically targeting residents they deemed undesirable, mostly older residents on fixed incomes who they thought wouldn't fight back. They had collected hundreds of thousands in illegal fines and fees, much of which had been diverted to a secret account Brenda controlled. They had also been working with a corrupt property management company to overcharge for services and kick back money to the board. The most damning discovery was that Brenda had been using HOA resources to run background checks on residents and potential buyers, looking for any information she could use to intimidate or control them. Armed with this evidence, Mark and his team moved in. I'll never forget the look on Brenda's face when FBI agents showed up at the HOA office with a federal warrant. "What is the meaning of this?" she demanded as they began seizing computers and files. "Brenda Peterson, I'm Special Agent Mark Henderson with the FBI," my son said, showing his credentials. "We're executing a warrant for evidence related to wire fraud, extortion, and racketeering. You have the right to remain silent." Her face went pale as she realized who Mark was. "You're Frank's son?" "Yes, ma'am." "And you're under arrest." The news spread through Sunset Pines like wildfire. Within days, the entire HOA board had resigned, and a temporary administrator was appointed by the court to oversee the community until new elections could be held. All the illegal liens against my property were removed, and I was able to close on the sale of my home. I even received a formal apology from the new interim HOA board, along with a refund of all the fines I had paid. Brenda and several of her cronies faced federal charges. Last I heard, she had pleaded guilty to multiple counts of fraud and was looking at significant prison time. I've now settled into a lovely retirement community near Scottsdale, close to Mark and his family. My new place has a small patio where I'm already planning to recreate Eleanor's rose garden. Looking back, I'm amazed at how quickly a peaceful retirement can turn into a battle for your rights. HOAs were created to maintain property values and community standards, not to become personal fiefdoms for power-hungry individuals. If you're dealing with an HOA that's overstepping its bounds, document everything, know your rights, and don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. You never know when help might come from an unexpected place, like your FBI agent's son. What's the craziest HOA rule you've ever encountered? Share your stories in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe for more tales of justice served. Thanks for watching.